What's up, everybody? Happy Wednesday to you. Thought we would sit down here and turn to our traditional Wednesday format. Isn't that nice? Of actually going through talking everything Packers as we prepare for the season opener on Friday for Packers versus Eagles down in Brazil. Packers right now, in case you're wondering, are actually on their plane on the way down. It was estimated, I saw a bunch of different numbers out there, but it's estimated it was like going to be about a 10 and a half hour flight. They departed this morning and they are currently over some body of water somewhere. They're due to get in, from what I saw last, about 6:30 p.m. into Brazil. And then from just kind of picking up some pieces, I think they were probably going to do a team dinner tonight and then a walkthrough tomorrow in order to get ready for the game on Friday. So we thought that we would just check in what's going on with the injury report, everything else. We'll get to all of the news, the latest transaction, etc. with you fine people here today. My name's John. I'm the host. This is Partner in Life, Partner in Pod, Claudia. So Packers Kingdom, you are here right off the bat. What's up, Packers Kingdom?
Saying, I heard Kraft has a back injury.
Yes, and finding details about said back injury thus far has been problematic. So I'll get to that in just a second.
Also saying, and Dobbs' hand, could we start Wicks and Sims?
I don't think it's going to go that far. So let's actually dive right into the injury report. I know it'll be a little bit tough to see, but that is the injury report for the Packers. On there, you're going to see Edgerrin Cooper. He's obviously been limited the last couple of days. As you note, Packers Kingdom, limited practice yesterday for Romeo Doubs. Now, I know that might have caused some concern right off the bat. You're mentioning perhaps starting Wicks instead. Dobbs, for what it's worth, said yesterday at his locker following the practice that it's just a bruise on his hand, and at least in practice, he was able to do everything that he needed to do. So to me, that says like the Packers are reporting it because it is a thing. He was at least limited, but he's not being held back in any way, shape, or form. I still would fully anticipate him to start. Other than that, Tucker Kraft does have a back injury. Details about that, very, very hard to find at this juncture. This was just put out. Keep in mind, too, that this is an estimated injury report. This is not based upon a practice that would have occurred today, because this is the travel day for the Packers. This is just an estimation as to what would have happened on the practice field. And then Marshawn Lloyd would have been limited today had they practiced. That's coming off of a DNP yesterday. As for why yesterday was a DNP, I saw some really irresponsible out there stuff like saying, oh, it must be a setback. He re-pulled it. That was from some of the really crappy media outlets out there. That's not true. LaFleur even said in his press conference that he's coming off of 2 limited days. They're just taking it slow and making sure that he's good. And then also Aaron Mosby is not traveling with the team. He is out with a personal matter. Then for the Eagles, really nothing unexpected. However, Devin White, the linebacker, he is out. He's not even traveling with the team to Brazil. He is out for the Packers game on Friday night. So that is the most up-to-date injury report that we have. Tomorrow, I believe we should actually get to like the full-fledged injury designations, like questionable, doubtful, etc. But for the Packers, it does, by all accounts, look like a pretty clean bill of health. Then Packers Kingdom saying,
You know how Matt is.
yeah, they report every little freaking thing, don't they? Which, I mean, that's just very much the Packers way. Be ultra transparent while giving nothing at all. We'll list it, but we're not going to tell you what's going on with it. So we'll find out what's going on with Tucker Kraft. But considering that they list him as what would have been limited and not a DNP, leads me to believe that guy would still suit up if the game were today. Should be fine for Friday, is my current guess based upon what's out there right now. So yeah, that's the most up-to-date injury report. Again, an estimation put out by the team for what would have occurred if there was practice today. In addition, though, one other bit of news that kind of developed yesterday. One Messiah Swinson is no longer on the Packers report. He signed with the Carolina Panthers, an actual 53-man roster spot for that young man, which I will admit was pretty unexpected in spite of his strong preseason. Nonetheless, he is active on the 53 now for the Carolina Panthers, as they have had a rash of injuries in their tight end room. So instead, the Packers signed Chris Brooks, the running back, formerly a UDFA. Really, really interesting profile on this guy. And I'm not going to lie, this is one that I'm actually kind of excited about. You see the entire practice squad listed there. Few notable things, still no tackle on it. Now, with Messiah Swinson being gone, there's also no tight end on there. And with the Packers only having 3 active tight ends on the 53, I do think after this game, we're going to see some practice squad transactions to get LaFleur a 4th tight end. Not necessarily on the 53, but at least on the practice squad because he's probably losing some hair over not having a 4th one. But in terms of Chris Brooks, if you're wondering, yeah, he's a Goot type through and through. He's a 232-pound running back. That is the most Gutekunst crush-worthy player ever. So he's a UDFA out of BYU last year. In case you're wondering about his RAS comps, the top 2 players that he comps with are Derrick Henry and Dorsey Levens. Like, what a wild profile. But and then I also wanted to show this clip too, just because it's fun. But here we have, this would be a clip that Wendell, the Brazilian reporter, actually put out. Chris Brooks was on the Miami Dolphins 53 last year. He suffered a leg injury that cost him a few games. And then he finished the season on their 53, went through the offseason program, did training camp, had a relatively strong camp by all accounts, and then suffered a concussion. So he was waived with the injury designation. Didn't stop the Packers from signing him about 48 hours later. But just check out this play if you're curious about his running style at 232 pounds.
Chosen on the move. Brooks gets the call. Blocked by Wynn. Breaking a tackle. Chugging his way. Look at him. Drive and slash and move and corkscrew inside the...
Yeah, I wasn't kidding. Like, I'm actually pretty excited. In terms of practice squad running backs, this is an exciting one. So I am looking forward to seeing if he ever cracks the 53 or fills in for an injury and just watch him bowling ball himself around. So that's really the most pertinent news out there that's developed for the Packers over the course of the last 24 hours. We have the Chris Brooks transaction, then we have the injury report. Now, tomorrow I'll be diving in full-fledged with the game preview for Packers versus Eagles, kind of looking at the different strengths and weaknesses for each team, how they match up, looking at it from a statistical perspective from what we know from last year, as well as what the Eagles have done differently this year. But just to give you a small flavor of that, keep in mind the Philadelphia Eagles, if you're looking at what they did last year, portions of it you may need to throw out because they have a brand new defensive coordinator in Vic Fangio. They also have a brand new offensive coordinator in terms of Kellen Moore. And yet, there's still going to be some similarities there because Sirianni is still the head coach. And so there is a lot of different parts here. I'll be going through the full game. Expect that to release tomorrow afternoon, looking at strengths and weaknesses and everything that is with that. Rock, what's up?
Saying love the breakdown. W Stream.
Thank you.
Eric Sutherland saying go Pack go.
Go Pack go, Eric. Always.
Go Pack go. IROC to you too.
Absolutely. So this is one game, I'm going to talk about this a lot more tomorrow, but this is one game that I think the Packers actually match up fairly well against the Philadelphia Eagles. There are a couple concerns though. One, Fangio, really, really good defensive coordinator, right? I know it's week 1 with a new team, but the Philadelphia defense has at least had some shades of Fangio scheming in the last couple of years. So even installing Fangio isn't going to be this radical departure. Unlike the Packers on their side of things, going from Joe Barry to Jeff Hafley is going from black to white, sour to sweet. Pick your opposites, whichever you want. That's what they're doing. So it is going to be very, very different. Whereas Philly should have an easier transition. Philly is also kind of bending in 2 rookie corners as well that we may see throughout the course of the game. In spite of all of that, I still think that this is a strong matchup for the Packers, assuming that they continue with the health that we've seen in the last couple of days and some of these limited practices don't become full-fledged questionables or anything like that. In terms of the Packers defense versus the Eagles offense, I know it's the first game with Hafley. I know it's reasonable to expect that there's going to be issues with needing to gel and everything to that effect. But realistically, where we've seen Jalen Hurts struggle the most over the course of the last 2 seasons, especially the second half of last year, is when he is under assault. When you see more aggressive blitzes, that's when Jalen Hurts seems to kind of fall apart. That should bode well for the Jeff Hafley side of things. One concern, though, and I'll give you some numbers tomorrow, Saquon Barkley scares me a little bit. Like, let's just be honest about it. Behind Philly's O-line, with a much better runner than they've had in recent years, we have yet to see the Packers' run defense actually work for Hafley. I'm not doubting the pass defense and the pass rush. I'm a little worried about the run defense. So we'll dive into some numbers tomorrow, talk about that, and we'll see. Is it going to be, are they going to hand it off to Barkley just that much more because it's going to work like they did a couple years ago when Eagles and Packers matched up and the Eagles ran for like 300 yards? Or is Kellen Moore going to get his hands a little bit more in the game plan and actually force Hurts to air it out? We'll find out, but all of that in depth tomorrow. So that's kind of the news of the day. We'll, of course, hang around here for just another second, but did want to hop on and at least give you the news and what the Packers roster looks like. One interesting tidbit for you, if you are wondering about practice squad and who all travels and everything to that effect, LaFleur admitted in his press conference earlier this week that not the entire practice squad actually goes. And frankly, I was a little surprised by that because, Packers, you got the funds. It's not a monetary issue, right? And you're in a different country. Now, maybe part of it is risk mitigation, right? Makes sense because the NFL has been supposedly very vocal to these two teams about, when you get down there, stay in your hotel. Do not leave your hotel. What a wonderful way to experience a new country.
Right.
So, I don't know. It's just odd to me that they're not just sending everyone, but some practice squads stay in it. So, Iraq saying,
stopping the run is a must.
yes, very much so against Barkley. Absolutely.
Dave saying, hey folks, a little late, what's going on?
What's up?
Peter, bonjour, Claudia and John. No AJ Dillon, no Marshawn Lloyd, no Emmanuel Wilson. No problem. Just bring me Chris Brooks. He could be the real deal.
Hey, man, I showed that one highlight. I like Chris Brooks a whole bunch. He just looks like a straight up bowling ball. I like some of what he did in Miami. So I'm down with this. I do think though, how many running backs is too many running backs for a practice squad, right? I understand you have the injury with Lloyd and he may take some time to continue to get back, but they got 3 running backs on their practice squad right now. It just feels a tinge bit excessive. It's why I mentioned we may see some moves next week once we get through this game.
Dave saying Brooks 5 yards per catch. I think
the exact number is 5.6 actually is what he averaged. Now, granted, that was only on 19 carries in Miami last year, and part of that number is very much inflated by a 56-yard run that he had early on in the season. So, a little bit of context there. But nonetheless, 5.6, no matter your amount of carries, is a very healthy yards per carry number. And what's especially encouraging is his yards per contact number. I don't remember that off the top of my head, but that was also certainly in the plus side of things. So, I don't know. In terms of practice squad signings, this one got me more excited than most. That's for sure.
Dave saying, give me the cliff notes.
Yeah, we'll get back to that 1 second.
Packers Kingdom saying they reopen up Swift investigation. They said Swift is the main guy in a murder that happened in 2021. Soon he left the Eagles. What conspiracy?
What
did I miss?
You're talking about DeAndre Swift, the runner for the Bears now? I don't know. I haven't seen anything about that. All right. That's wild.
Dave saying Brooks, Merriweather, and what's his face?
Yes. So the other one on the practice squad would be LaMichael Pirine. 4th round pick in 2020. Spent a little bit of time, I think, with the Niners. And then last year, I know for sure, was with Kansas City. Very limited action, different style of running back than Chris Brooks. But again, last I checked, he was 216 pounds. So Goo likes some beefy. And P. Ryan fits in with that as well.
David saying same could be said for yards per carry for Wilson last year on his giant run in preseason.
Yeah. Oh, certainly. Yes. In terms of buoying up yards per carry. Yeah. When Emmanuel Wilson led all running backs in rushing. 1,000%. Yes. And that's always an important thing to note when you're looking at small sample sizes and yards per something. Is it inflated in one way or another? And certainly.
Peter asking Clifford or Willis to back up Jordan Love in Sao Paulo.
My guess is Clifford. Now, they did say that Willis was, making progress in terms of his prep and all that stuff. It was very interesting, too, the dichotomy between Gutekunst's press conference last week and LaFleur's. When Gutekunst said, oh, yeah, we'll try to get him up to speed. There's just a lot going on. Good sounded very wishy-washy on whether Willis would be number 2. LaFleur, well, that's the expectation. He should be the number 2. You two didn't talk about this very much, did you? My personal expectation is I would expect, because Clifford knows the offense, he will be elevated for the game. He will officially be the number 2, at least for this week, especially given the fact that this is a Friday, not a Sunday. There's all of this travel and logistics. There's just so much going on around the team. For Willis to also completely learn the offensive line, it's just a lot. So I would expect Clifford to be elevated.
Packers Kingdom saying, I can send you the info. You have Twitter?
Yeah, I do. Actually, right under my name right there, at LTB Packers Pod. Send away, man. I'll take a look.
Is he related to Samaje Perine?
I don't know. I honestly didn't look into that. Possible. I had the same thought. I just forgot to look it up. Not going to lie.
Dave saying he was a tryout for us, right?
Perine. I think he was. Honestly, you remember that stuff better than I do from years ago. I think he was, though. But yeah.
What I like about Brooks is yard after contact.
Exactly. Yes, and that's what I'm talking about.
That video showed it.
Right? That's the bowling ball.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of promise here for a practice squad running back. Like I said, I'm excited about this one.
Dan saying, John, any idea what the weather is like in Brazil?
So last time I looked, and I want to say this too, if any of you are still concerned about the fires thing and the air quality thing, I'm just going to go with what LaFleur said, in that the league has not brought it up to the team. And again, almost like the whole Marshawn Lloyd injury thing, I've seen the crap reports out there about the Packers are preparing to move the game. No, I haven't seen anything legitimate about that in any way. LaFleur said that the league, he knows the league is down there already. They have not relayed to the teams if there's any concerns. So we can put that to the side. In terms of the weather itself, last I saw, game should be about 80 degrees, even after the sun goes down. So a little warm, but also not horribly humid. So, it looks like it should be a relatively comfortable game for both sides in that way.
Dave saying, you look like my librarian. No offense. She a cool chick. I take that as a compliment. Not gonna lie. I'm totally good with that.
Got the glasses on today.
Peter's saying, though Goody drafted Cooper linebacker is still a serious need, sadly enough.
Yeah, it is one of the spots on the team that, when looking up and down the depth chart, is probably still a little bit more of a concern, right? And even take the rookies, even if they're tremendous rookies, they're still rookies, right? So that leaves you ultimately with Quay Walker. Okay, we know what he does well versus doesn't do well by this point. Okay, still can hope for growth there too. That's reasonable. And then you've got McDuffie. Certainly know what he does and doesn't do. And the same can really be said for Eric Wilson, who right now is slated in to be your third starter while Edgerrin Cooper has missed so much time during camp. And then I did think that Hopper showed some promise during the preseason, but yeah, flaws were still apparent too. So looking up and down the depth chart, linebacker is absolutely one of those spots that has more question marks than others. A lot of hope is riding on Edgerrin Cooper. But I'll throw in one little afterthought with that too. The progress from Isaiah McDuffie. If you would have told me 24 months ago that we'd be looking at McDuffie as a starter, that's really concerning. Now, yeah, no, he's not going to be spectacular, but he's steady. He's not going to mess it up. And the same can almost be said for Eric Wilson, whose best professional season as a linebacker came in a 4-3 system back in 2020 for the Minnesota Vikings. So, there is some some progress there, but yeah, it's still one of the concerning spots for sure.
Dave saying, yeah, P. Ryan back. I have a stupid brain that stores these random facts.
There you go.
Hey, I mean,
There you go. Hey, you remember it. That's
right?
good.
See, we get the air quality index in Brazil is 41 for Friday. So decent.
Yeah, okay.
I'll take it.
Yeah, I'm not going to claim to know exactly what 41 is, but I do seem to recall from Wisconsin having all those problems last year, that 41 was on the nicer side of things. Packers Kingdom. So Twitter is at LTB Packers Pod. Yeah, under my name on the thingy. There you go. Where was the next one here?
Dave saying, gonna play a lot of 4-2-5 anyway. Let him heal, and we have Hopper still.
I think it is very reasonable that against Philly we may see more 4-2-5, especially with the addition that Philly just made in Jahan Dotson. Like, the 3 wide receivers that they're going to roll out are legit in A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, and Jahan Dotson. And even some of their depth is kind of like the Packers' depth. It ain't bad, for sure. So the cornerback depth for Green Bay is going to be utilized heavily. I also fully suspect, even possibly in that 4-2-5, we may see some big nickel arrangements where they do, just like they did in preseason and camp, slide Javon Bullard into the slot, not Keyshawn, in order to get Evan Williams on the field. So I do think you're right. We're going to see a lot of 4-2-5. Maybe we'll just see the traditional base like 4-3 and more what they're expecting to be first down, more obvious run situations, etc. In which case, then you really don't mind Eric Wilson and Isaiah McDuffie, even Hopper, on the field a little bit more.
Peter saying Goody should have traded for Ernest Jones IV.
Yeah, I did see. He went pretty darn cheap, and that was coming off of a promising season last year. I didn't read up a ton on that one, but that is a name that I recall seeing and thinking like, oh, that was not hard to get him. So, like, yeah. But I think ultimately, like, linebacker's kind of one of those spots where it's got some questions, but at the same time, who do you kick off? Right? Like, because they were never going to get rid of Eric Wilson. He's way too important on teams. McDuffie's one of your starters, Quay. Then you got Hapa and Cooper. So, who are you going to get rid of? That would be a worthwhile question in adding somebody.
McDuffie playing back in his defense is why it's easier for him.
Yeah, although he did only intersect with Hafley at Boston College, I think just the 1 year. So while he is familiar, it's not so like what he grew up in. It is at least foreign-ish, I guess I should say.
Dave saying kind of sucks Mosby had a personal issue and didn't travel or he could be that off-ball for safety on interior linebacker.
Well, I don't know if I'd put him back at safety. I mean, +2, the Packers have said, because I know we talked about this a little bit last week with Mosby and his potential versatility. Like, the Packers did say that he's done a heck of a job growing out of that tweener role, which would lead me to believe like he's packed on some weight, at least somehow, right? Because he very much last year was even a tweener. Now, he looks much more definitively like a defensive end based upon what they have said. So I'm not sure that he has that versatility as much anymore. As for a defensive end occasionally dropping back into coverage, that we could still see. Oh, no, not play. Okay, I got you, Dave. I got you. Not play him at safety as a safety measure. Okay, I got you. No, that makes sense. Rams did that. I must have missed something.
Comments.
Okay,
Yep.
Gary, what you got? What's up, Gary?
So happy that football is
Yeah!
here. Can't wait to hang out with you guys in a watch party and see what this team is going to look like this year with real Green Bay fans, the knowledge of the game.
Aw, thanks, Gary. We are very much looking forward to watch parties. Starts this Friday. We'll be here every minute of the game on Friday. And the other thing that I'm really happy to announce is coming back. I did this the first year on the pod. Did not do it last year for the second year because we added in watch parties. This year, we're going to do watch parties, and then right after, I will film like a 10 to 15 minute. I don't think I'm going to go live for them. I don't know. Going to be a quick reaction to the game that we just saw, and then put that out shortly after the game is done. So those immediate reactions are coming back to the channel this year. But yes, watch parties start Friday. Very excited.
Dave saying conference trades usually aren't made, hence the trade to Titans.
Yeah, fair point. Fair point. I mean, it would be much more rare for a division trade, right? Conference trades are at least within question. But maybe McVay just didn't want to give anybody to LaFleur. You never know.
Packers saying, yeah, I know LA, but Rams and Packers have not good blood.
While the coaches are best friends. Yeah, right.
Yes. Chatting saying, I'm really excited to see our new safety room, talk about a complete overhaul, and maybe the best turnaround of a position in the league. Really excited about McKinney and Bullard.
It's the Gutekunst way, right? Allow for years the cupboard to become completely barren at one position. And then in one offseason, just kind of sit back and go, that really is a problem, isn't it? And then throw every freaking resource you have at overhauling that room. Like it's what he does. We've seen it with wide receiver a couple years ago. Like we saw it with tight end. That's what he does. It's how he operates. And safety was the beneficiary this year. I think one of the things that's going to be very eye-opening for a lot of us is it's been a long time since we've seen not just one safety, because we had Amos there for a couple of years who was very competent, if not spectacular. You got to really go back to like Nick Collins to have a playmaking safety in a lot of different ways, right? And now all of a sudden, in theory, we should have both safety spots truly be competent and playmakers. We have not seen this before. Should be very, very eye-opening to watch out of defense, for sure.
Packers Kingdom saying, but Lombardi Time, you guys have to follow back to be able to message, or I'm going to try someone else out.
Oh, yeah, okay, on Twitter? Yeah, sounds good. I'll follow you back on Twitter. That's fine. I'll just do that right after this.
Dave saying, I'm prepping tacos for tomorrow, because F it, why not? Football tacos, guac, all that jazz. Good for you, man.
If you're going to have a theme, live in the theme, man, right? For sure.
Pack fan, I was saying, I'm so excited for Friday night and the rest of this year. It is going to be special. Go, Pack, go.
Go, Pack, go. Amen.
Packers Kingdom, I sent it up under a post of you guys, so what you think about it?
Sounds good. All right, I'll check it out.
Peter saying, I got a feeling Christian Watson's going to repeat his show against Eagles' secondary defense.
It is possible, although I will say, because I was actually thinking about that this morning as I was going back and I watched at least the highlights from the last matchup that they had. The scheming against Christian Watson and Jordan Love is going to be a lot different than it was last time. If you go back and watch some of those plays that Watson was really successful on last time, a lot of them, even if they weren't man truly, there was a lot of passing off of Watson as he was running through zones and everything. Fangio, I think, is going to approach, with all the weaponry the Packers have, going to approach this a lot more in a traditional Joe Barry-esque way, in that it's going to be a lot of spaced out zone, mitigate the big play. And that may neutralize Christian Watson. Now, he'll probably still get his crossers in. He'll still wrangle open deep at least once. But I'm saying from a schematic perspective, I would expect that Fangio is going to space out his defense and make sure that the deep shots that Love got so good at it in the second half last year are not going to be as open. Packers offense may have to operate more of a death by 1,000 paper cuts kind of way.
Packers Kingdom saying Watson is going to go crazy. He will remember people called him trash online last year.
Yeah, I do expect a strong season from Watson, with the asterisk of assuming health. Hopefully all of his issues are behind him. But even from what we saw in camp, I talked about this a little bit during camp, his chemistry with Jordan Love is just still not what it is with the other receivers, like Love to Wicks, Love to Dobbs, whatever. The one area, though, that was radically better this camp than it was last year is the Love to Watson deep ball. Intermediate routes, they still don't look completely gelled. But the deep ball looks so much better than it did at this time last year. And that should be very exciting.
Dave saying, you think we play quarters with man over?
Possible. I won't be shocked, though, if on earlier downs we actually see the more aggressive man approach. Just to hopefully keep them uptight to the line, especially as secondary players, depending on the alignment. Like I'll say, Bullard, if he's in the slot for certain packages, right? Then I would expect them to be up closer. And I think that may be man, because I think the priority for Hafley is going to be to shut down Barkley first. then we'll see how it progresses. But my guess is that that's what they're going to lean into first.
Packers Kingdom, like not coaches, but GM, and coaches don't run the roster. They just put their input, but the GM makes the call.
Yeah, true. I mean, the construction of the 53 is straight up Goots, baby. And then LaFleur has to coach whoever he is given. Now, like, LaFleur and Goot do talk, but it is very much Goot's decision, right? It's not like LaFleur is just victim to whatever Goot does. He does have input. But yeah, it is who the 53 is up to Goot.
Dave saying, we know Moore's offense and Fangio's defense. They haven't seen Hafley's D or our offense yet with Jacobs. And I bet an elevated fullback.
In terms of Andrew Beck elevating him, wouldn't surprise me. I think part of the practice squad elevations will be determined, though, by is that hand bruise from Dobbs worse than he let on in his locker yesterday? Or how's Edgerrin Cooper doing? For sure, I think we're going to see a running back elevated to make up for Lloyd. So the elevations, if they don't get filled up by injuries, then we may see some schematic additions like Beck. But if they got to cover for injuries, expect that first.
Iraq saying, so basically, stop the run and run the frick out of the ball.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, so the Packers offense wants to do more. Now with Jacobs, this is the belief that they want to do more gap running, more like interior style running, less outside zone, right? But that's where the Eagles are freaking loaded on the defensive line. You're going to have a lot more success running against the Eagles, getting outside against their defensive ends, and even, especially with White out, even though he's not great at tackling, going against a very suspect linebacking core for the Eagles. If you think the Packers linebackers are suspect, the Eagles are very, very questionable. So that's where you can have a lot more success running the ball. I would be concerned about trying to run up the right alley behind Sean Ryan or Jordan Morgan in his first career game and going against any one of the defensive tackles that the Eagles have. So maybe more like short pass may work well. I am concerned that this may not be the best debut game for Jacobs if they just continually try to run him into a buzzsaw behind Josh Myers and company.
Peter saying neutralizing Watson could benefit to Wicks.
Yeah, that I would very much agree with. Absolutely, Peter. I'm totally with you on that. Same thing with Dobbs, too. Assuming health on Dobbs' front, right? Like, we've seen it a lot. If the defense worries about Watson, who's the beneficiary for little out routes, little hooks, little curls? That's Dobbs' zone.
I mean, that really is one of the greatest assets in our extremely large and talented wide receiver room. Is you can't cover everybody.
Yeah.
And if you try and cover your big play man in Watson, you're opening up for the great chemistry between Love and Dobbs, between the great playmaker that is Wicks.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's
certainly
definitely an asset.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, one of the things with keeping in mind what Philly is going to be rolling out is it's expected at this point that obviously they've got Darius Slay, who is a tremendous corner, but is starting to get up there, right? We did see shades of that at the end of last year. Then that opposite corner, it's believed, is going to be Quinion Mitchell, their first-round rookie. And then maybe in some of the later packages, we'd see Cooper DeJean actually come into the game. And then, of course, they've got Maddox, their slot corner as well. A very, very talented secondary. Also beatable. And that's another reason why I think we'll see Fangio kind of go with the don't destroy us path, I guess I should say, in neutralizing the big play. And that's what we'll see with spaced out defense for.
Dave saying, I would love a heavy man. Such a great thing to say.
To do a pronged answer there.
We all know what it means, but yet when you just say it, this is when the T-Swift fans go, what the heck are you guys talking about? Like,
yeah.
Iraq saying, and our Swiss Army knife, Jaden Reed.
That's right,
Absolutely.
the do it all, right?
Yes.
And maybe we'll see him get a couple backfield snaps as we saw last year. It's a couple little wrinkles here and there, right? Maybe since it's earlier in the year, maybe we'll see Keyshawn Nixon get one more snap on the offensive side of the ball too. So very much looking forward to this game. It is time for us to jump on out of here. We got a little to go pick up. We got one.
Cooper DeJean. You mean the Cooper DeJean Goody was supposed to draft this year?
Yes, Peter, that one. As much as Evan Williams has been fantastic, as much as Bullard has been great, I still would have loved to see Eugene in this defense. So, just willing to move on, and hopefully Jordan Morgan gets some snaps at right guard this week. All right, we are out of here, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. Check out tomorrow, probably tomorrow afternoon is going to drop the game preview for Packers versus Eagles. I'll have some numbers in there talking about some of the matchups, a little bit more in depth that we talked about today. Really looking through the Eagles roster, what they changed over the course of the offseason, etc., to get us ready for week 1. And then, of course, Friday night, watch party. Just hanging out with us, checking out the game. It really does. Finally, we made it, y'all. Yeah. We survived. So we're almost there. All right, everybody, go have a fantastic day. We will see you tomorrow. And as always, go Pack, go.